Let's go, y'all. We are back for the AFC North. I'm so excited.
Let's get it.
Football is back. It's so close, y'all. I can taste it. And the more I look at the AFC North, y'all, woo, I thought the AFC East was the best and the hardest, but we've got a little we got a competitor right here. So AFC North, before I get too into it, this is the Hedge with Double D. Thank y'all for joining me.
The Hedge with Double D.
As always, I got my buddies. Dylan, thank you for joining me, man.
Thanks for having me, Double D.
Oh, Tony, Big Bear, thank you for joining us. Always good to have you.
Hey, the pleasure's all over here, man. I promise.
All right, I love to hear it. I'm excited, y'all. So AFC North, as always, we start with the overall schedules for the AFC North. The AFC North, they are playing the AFC South, which makes their schedules a little bit easier, which is maybe why all these win totals are higher than I expected. They are always also playing the NFC West, which is a tough division. So we'll see. I don't know. Kind of depends on what you think about the Rams, basically. I think that sways a lot of opinion on the NFC West. But we'll talk about the NFC West next week. So AFC North, they're playing the AFC South, NFC West. We always go in alphabetical order. We are gonna start with the Baltimore Ravens. Ooh, the Baltimore Ravens, y'all. They finished second last year in their division. They went 10-7. The over-under for them is 10.5. So Vegas thinks they'll win another half game, basically one more game than last year. But guys, they've got a tough schedule outside of the AFC South. They really do. They've got a tough schedule outside of the AFC South. Let me pull it up here without getting y'all too much out of the way. The Ravens, I mean, they've got a kind of an easy beginning to me. But then I don't know. There's a couple places where it cuts up, it hits up. It gets tough here and there. Before I get too much into the over/under, as always, let me get into who they added, who they lost. They lost a lot of defense. They lost Calais Campbell, a big man on the line. They lost Marcus Peters at cornerback. They lost Clark, one of the starting safeties. And for all that defense that they lost, the main people they added was right at the wide receiver position. They drafted Zay Flowers. They added Nelson Aguilar, and obviously the biggest addition they added, Odell Beckham Jr. So a lot of this is going to be, can Odell and Lamar make magic? Is Zay Flowers going to step in and make a big deal all of a sudden? And with Baltimore finishing second, they don't have an easy schedule. Like you'd think maybe they have something here and there, but for the second place teams, they have to face for that. They go at the Chargers, they play the Lions, and they play the Dolphins. 3 very tough games, 3 very interesting games for the year. I'm not super high on Baltimore. Lamar is playing on the franchise tag. Is he going to prove himself or not? Tony says no.
No, he signed a long-term deal.
Oh, that's right. Oh,
He
that's
signed
right.
a deal.
Oh, that's right. He did sign a long-term deal. I'm sorry. So he did sign the long-term deal, which maybe is even less of a reason to prove yourself. But I'm not high on Baltimore. They've got a good run game. We'll see if they have a good passing game, if Odell and them mesh. Obviously, with Andrews, they've got a stellar tight end, and maybe like with all the other tight ends, with all the other receivers, that'll kind of open up the middle of the field for Marcus Andrews to really take over as like a number 1-2 tight end. And then they've got obviously like the best kicker in the league, and they've got some pretty good linebackers, in my opinion. Their secondary, especially their cornerbacks, are going to be their weakness, I think. But when I look at their schedule, the more I was going through it, I see like I see 8-9 wins, maybe 10 wins. I just don't. I think they're going to take a step back this year. I don't trust their defense. Usually the Ravens are all about that defense, and their offense can kind of take over. Their run game with Lamar Jackson recently can take over. Maybe he can hit a big pass here or there. But I don't trust them this year. I think the AFC North is going to be really tough. I think they're going to kind of split a lot of these games divisionally. And I think they're going to lose a couple of these games against the NFC West, and then these extra games against the Chargers, Lions, and Dolphins. And I only see them winning 9, maybe 10 games. So I am going under on the Baltimore Ravens. Dylan, what do you think about that? Where are you going with the Ravens?
You said the total's 10.5, right?
10.5.
That's a good number. I mean, they're right there, I think, at that number. They open up with the Texans, at home, should get a good win, start the year. But then go with the Bengals. That's gonna be tough. Of course, divisional game immediately. Get the Colts at home, should take care of that. But yeah, the middle of their schedule gets a little bit difficult. I think it's a story of health with this team. J.K. Dobbins is the best running back, one of the best running backs in the league when he's healthy. Yards per carry. He's just, I think he was the best when he was on the field last year. But does he stay there? I mean, we haven't seen it yet. Lamar hasn't finished the last 2 seasons. Either of those guys gets injured and their defense taking a hit. I mean, that's a lot of factors. I don't have much to say, but I do think that the end of their schedule is going to be rough. They do have the Niners, the Dolphins, the Steelers, the Jags, and the Rams after their bye. If they're dealing with injuries at that point in the season, it's just not going to be a good year. For them, they could still make a playoff spot with a 9 or 10 win season. But their total at 10.5, I think it's a little high as well. I'm going to put them right around 10 wins. I think they're going to handle, the Cardinals. I mean, they're going to handle most of their schedule, a good part of their schedule early on, and they'll probably get some wins later. But I see them as probably a 9-win, maybe even an 8-win team, maybe even going with a losing record, which would be a big step back for a team that's a playoff contender every year, pretty much with Lamar. So I'm going to go under as well. I just think they're just going to be dealing with injuries potentially with Lamar signed the big deal. You know what that means? It's time to get injured. And, I mean, with these running quarterbacks, it seems like, that sometimes happens. And I'm not saying that I wish that on anyone, but it is a concern in my mind. So I'm going to go under on that total.
Okay. All right, Tony, are you going to get 3 unders in a row? What are you thinking, brother?
I think I'm gonna have to go opposite of you guys. I'm a believer in the Ravens. I'm definitely a believer in Lamar Jackson. I know a lot of people, after they sign a big contract, they kind of step back. They're like, all right, I got mine. I'm good. But Lamar, I don't know. I just, like I said, I believe in him. I know he loves the game. I know he loves to play. So I think he's going to really show out. He's kind of struggled the last year or two. I know a lot of that's injury, but I think he's going to really ball out this year, come back to maybe his MVP form from a few years ago. And with them losing people on defense, it's alarming when you think about it. But really, any John Harbaugh-led defense is going to be good. It's going to be competitive. So, I have nothing but faith in him as well. I think he's one of the best coaches in the NFL. Really good defensive mind. So I think their defense is going to be better than what people are going to think at the beginning of the season. I wish I could say OBJ was going to be a bigger part of the offense. I think he's kind of past his prime by a good amount. But, he could at least be a distraction on the field. I'm sure he'll make some big catches. He always does. So, I think Baltimore is going to be competing right up there with Cincinnati for this division. I think it's wide open. So give me the over, and let's just hope that not a whole lot of injuries happen, because I can't think of a team that struggled more with injuries this last couple seasons than the Ravens. Give me the over on the Ravens. Big believer.
All right, interesting. All right. Tony's got the under. Over. Dylan and I have the under. Tony, I agree with you that I still believe in Lamar Jackson. I do think he's going to ball out, do his thing. I just don't believe in the defense. And I agree with you, OBJ. I don't really, not that I don't know. He just had the ACL injury. I'm not a big not a big believer in him, but I do think if you want to talk about fantasy wise, I think it's going to open up the field a lot for Andrews. I think Andrews is going to stay in that top 5 and maybe move into like the top 2 or 3 tight ends, because I think the middle of the field is going to open up a lot for him. And obviously Lamar Jackson loves him. So
I'm going to just comment on OBJ real quick. I mean, he's a good talent, but that guy's ego has gotten him in trouble everywhere he's gone. And I mean, I know he's later in his career. He obviously has the Super Bowl, so he's going to bring that Super Bowl experience from that season, even though he was injured in that Super Bowl. But at the same time, do they need another ego on that offense? So again, I like what you said about Mark Andrews having a lot more opportunity. I'm just concerned OBJ brings more problems than talent at this point in his career.
yeah. Yep. I think I said Marcus. I'm confusing with Marcus Peters for Mark Andrews, but it's part of it. They lost Marcus Peters. They still have Mark Andrews. Mark it on the podcast.
Mark it down. Mark it foul. What is that from the Big Lebowski? Market 0.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to the Bengals. The Bengals are the favorite for the division. They are at 11.5 wins for over under. Last year they won the division, obviously. They were 12-4. They've got a tough schedule. Their extra games are they go to the Chiefs, they play the Vikings, and they play the Bills. If you're wondering why were they 12-4 instead of a 17-game season, remember that Bills game got cut short. So it'll be interesting to see them play the Bills again. Kind of a little rematch with the whole DeMar Hamlin situation. We'll leave it at that. The Bengals.
I want to say one thing real quick.
Yeah,
I think as long as Burrow and Mahomes are in the league, that should be a yearly game. I know it's not always going to work out that way, but if they keep finishing first in the division together, man, that's just always such a good game. So
that's the best game, man.
I'm all for that.
That's my favorite game to watch right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Burrow is one of the few quarterbacks that just like does not fear Mahomes and the Chiefs at all. Yeah.
You got ice in his veins, bro.
He fears no man.
All right. So the Bengals, they didn't do a whole lot of stuff in the offseason. The big thing that they did was they added a little bit of offensive line help, which is really big for them because that's what they needed. They added Orlando Brown Jr. They added another guy I didn't write down as a guard, and they moved someone to the right side. So they've got some offensive line help, basically, the Bengals. They lost both their safeties, and they added an extra safety. Basically, in general, they helped the offensive line. Their defense got a lot younger. Not to say it's got worse or better, but it got a lot younger. So take that as you will. Their strength is definitely, obviously, the quarterback, wide receiver, running back tandem between Joe Mixon, Chase, Higgins, and Boyd, and obviously Joe Burrow, as we said. Their defensive line is also a big strength, and we'll kind of see how their offensive line does this year. And then again, like I said, they've got a young defense, a young secondary in general. And they don't really have much of a tight end. Irv Smith Jr., I believe, is their starting tight end. And he's like a backup tight end. No offense to him, but he's been a backup tight end for most of
Let's see you do it, bro.
Yeah. I could take him.
Double D on the Bengals.
Yeah. So no offense to Irv. But their tight end is definitely a weak spot. So
I'm just gonna say, if you were a tight end, you'd be more like a light end because I don't think that you get.
Yeah, I'd be a receiving tight end, not a blocking tight end, or like a bench warmer.
You'd be a taking flight end because you'd be getting knocked off that field.
Very tight end. All right. So the Bengals, I think that's all we have to say about them. Dylan, how about you start with the Bengals? 11.5 is their over under. Do you see them getting over or under 11.5 wins?
I want you to get your tool set out. I want you to hammer it. Hammer the over.
Hammer in
this
the
team is-
over.
Yeah, this is easy for me. I mean, the best wide receiver quarterback combo in the league. I mean, they come from LSU together, win a natty, come into the Cincinnati with tons of chemistry, and I mean, the NFL hasn't phased them yet. I like them as a Super Bowl run this year. I mean, they didn't get it quite last year, obviously, or they came up short. But that's what they want, and that's what they're poised to do. I really like the beginning of their schedule too for them. Browns, Ravens, some tough divisional matchups, of course, but then Rams, Titans, Cardinals, Seahawks at home, hit a bye. They should start out super strong. We talked about the Bills in the other podcast, how some of us think they're still there. Some of us think they're taking a step back. I think they're taking a step back personally. So I think that's a good, another game for them, as a first place team to face. And then, they get the Texans. I mean, they have to play the Niners, which will be a tough game, but I mean, with me thinking that the Ravens are not going to be as good this year and hit some injury trouble later. Vikings, I mean, again, the Vikings are another team that is a first place team that I don't have a ton of faith in Kirk Cousins. We'll have to see if that game is on Monday night. It's not. It's Sunday, time to be announced. But if it's a Sunday night game, what's happening.
He get flexed. Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna get freaking flexed. But I mean, I love Burrow. I just think I think he's hitting that stride. I mean, he's looked so just excellent in his first, part of his career. And he's not afraid of Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that's who he's going after. And he knows where he's going to have to meet him in the AFC Championship or beyond. So I think they're shooting for a 1 or 2 seed. I really think they want that home field advantage. So I'm going to take over, hammer down. I think they have a 13-4, maybe even a 14-3 season. Really, with just very few losses on that schedule, I see.
All right, Tony, I'm going to you next. What are you thinking?
Man, I'm gonna agree with Dylan. I'm gonna take the over. I don't know if I'm as confident as Dylan is, but like you said, they didn't do a whole lot this offseason. Kind of a if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of situation. I think they're just gonna reload, hope for good health, and like Dylan said, go for another Super Bowl and hopefully get the dub this time. So I think it's gonna be interesting to see them in Baltimore at the end of the year. Who ends up with the division? Who ends up with that 5 seed? But yeah, it's gonna be a fun season. So give me the over on Bengals.
All right, guys. We got our first everyone agreeing on the over. You know what that means? We get a little
over the hedge.
Heyo.
Over the hedge.
Little sounder, Kelsey on the over the hedge. So we are all over the hedge here. I'm taking the over. I agree with y'all. If we're going to talk about a little betting, this is a betting show. Let me do a little tangent. FanDuel right now is doing a little bit of a if you put $50 on a Super Bowl winner, for every win they get, you get $5 up to $50. So basically, if they get 10 wins, you get your money back. I think the Bengals are a great pick on that right there, because I think the Bengals are definitely going to get 10 wins. They're going to get your money back at the $50. And like Dylan said, I think they're a sneaky Super Bowl pick. It's really hard to repeat, obviously, as the Chiefs. So I like the Bengals. I agree with y'all. I think the Vikings and the Bills aren't as hard as it can be for the first place team. I like the Bengals going over. I think they're going to win like 13 games again. I think they're going to take this division. I think their offense is just amazing. I think it'll take over their defense. I think they've got a really good defensive coordinator, which will kind of help out with everything. So I'm taking the Bengals over. We're going to stop right here for a second. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come right back with the Browns, y'all. Thank you for sticking with us. All right, y'all. We're back. We're talking AFC North. We've already talked Baltimore. We've already talked Cincinnati. We're going to get into the Browns and the Steelers next. So, Cleveland Browns. One of the more interesting, one of the more enigmatic teams of this year.
Enigmatic.
Yeah, good word
Look
there.
at
Huh?
you.
Yeah, we're smart. One of the more confusing, hard to pick teams for those out there. Man. So the Browns, they finished last in the division, but that doesn't make their schedule that much easier if you look at their teams they play. They were 7-10, even though Jacoby Brissett played. Let's look at it. Jacoby Brissett played, I want to say the first like 11, 12 weeks. We had the whole issue with Deshaun Watson. We're not going to get into. I don't want to get into it. It's, it is what it is. The Browns should be ashamed of themselves for putting that thing out there.
Does Deshaun Watson rub you the wrong way?
Damn.
Yeah. Yes.
Came to me.
It's all right. So Deshaun Watson started week 13. So, and he lost like no money. It's a travesty. And they still won 7 games. So with Jacoby Brissett starting a lot of that, Nick Chubb and that offensive line are dominant. Let's just say that. And that's kind of where we're going to get into for the Browns. Nick Chubb and that offensive line are really good. The Browns won 7 games, and they lost a lot of close games with Jacoby Brissett. So, take that as you will. Just facts that I'm putting out there. The Browns this year, they lost some defensive players. They lost Greedy Williams, a good cornerback, maybe a better name than he is a player, but man, that's a great name, Greedy Williams. They lost Jadeveon Clowney, also a pretty fun name, but also a really good player on the pass rush. But they added Zadarius Smith. As a Packers fan, I know how good of a pass rusher Zadarius Smith is. He can really wreak havoc. It'll be interesting to see him and Clowney on either side of the line. It's gonna be hard to block. They added Elijah Moore as a wide receiver to help Deshaun Watson. And still their offensive line is one of like top 5 in the league. Their offensive line, their running game is top 5 in the league. Their pass rush is very good. Their cornerback situation is good. Let me look at the roster to give you some names out there, but I know their cornerback situation is good. Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome. They've got a great defense. It kind of, I want to say it comes down to Deshaun Watson, but he doesn't even have to like lead the team because Nick Chubb and this offensive line are so good. Deshaun Watson just has to be like better than he was last year. If he can get back to that top 10, top 12 quarterback that he was in Texas, in Houston, I heard a stat that like being in a dome helps it's like a 6% or 6 points on your overall QBR. But I don't think that's that big of a difference. I don't think it's the outside versus the dome that was hurting Deshaun Watson. I think it was just the overall situation, everything going on with him, and then not playing for the first like 3 quarters of the season. I'd imagine Deshaun Watson gets better. I think Deshaun, but I'm not going to start with his team. So let me stop there. Tony, what are you thinking? Does Deshaun Watson get better? Do the Browns get over 9.5 wins this season?
The Browns are going to Brown. That's really all I can say.
Yeah.
They've got a good defense. They've got a great offensive line and running back, running game. But I don't know. Just I can't trust the Browns ever. Like you said, if Deshaun Watson can become Deshaun Watson of 5 years ago, then yeah, they could definitely be a contender. But in the division and in the whole league. But I just don't think he's going to be there. Get back to that. I know I said I believed in Lamar and I thought he was going to bounce back. I don't see the same for Deshaun. that might just be kind of me hoping that because he's a terrible human being. But, at the same time, who knows? So I'm going to go with the under on the Browns. I just don't trust them. At the end of the day, it's the Cleveland Browns. I shouldn't have to say much more than that. So give me the under on Cleveland.
All right. Understandable. The Browns have been like the worst team in the last like 40 years. So it's hard to argue. But, man, so you went over on the Ravens. So that means I think that's going to kind of sway me and you's difference here. You think over on the Ravens. I think under on the Ravens. I think I'm going to go over on the Browns. I think the Browns. Oh, man. See, this is tough here. So the Browns, when I first was looking at the Browns, like, oh, I'm going to take their over. And then it was 9.5. I was like, holy crap. This is explicit. Holy shit. That's a high over.
Holy Brown.
Holy Brown note. This is a high, that's the 9.5. They have some expectations. If you win 10 games, that should be a playoff team.
Could be.
It could be, unless you lose. I mean, it should be, but it's not. The AFC is tough.
AFC stacked.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily. You're right. It's not guaranteed. But, ooh, man, the Browns are a really good value to win this division at like 380. I think they're a great value to make the playoffs. I like them. If you have a good offensive line, if you have a good defensive line, you should be good. And if you have a quarterback like Deshaun Watson, man, just if they had him last year, I think they win 4 more of those games, those close games that Jacoby Brissett could not win for them. And he played poorly, Deshaun Watson, obviously, last year, which scares me. But he has the offseason now. He has this whole season to get back into it. What I was going to say, usually finishing 4th means you have an easy schedule, but they get the Bears, the Jets, and the Broncos, which are like the worst teams as a 4th place team to play. The Jets are way better. The Broncos are going to be way better. The Bears, I don't know. They could be way better. They could be terrible. So, oh, that scares me. But if I'm taking Baltimore under, I'm going to take the Browns over. I think a lot of people are going to go away from the Browns because, like Tony said, the Browns are terrible. The Browns brown. They're like the Lions. They're like the Jets. They've been terrible for a long time. They always mess up. They fuck up. But I'm going to go over with the Browns. I'm going to trust in them. I think their defense is going to step up. I think Deshaun Watson. More importantly, I think the offensive line and Nick Chubb is going to keep them in games, and Deshaun Watson is going to win 3 or 4 games at the end to get them that 10th, maybe 11th win, and it's going to get them in the playoffs. So I'm going to take the Browns on the over. All right, Dylan, give us the tiebreaker. Over, under on the Browns.
Yeah, man, this is a pretty straightforward situation. And just to give you an analogy, I'm going to call this the Tiger Woods effect.
Ooh.
When any athlete goes through this type of public, shame, and especially with, when it comes to do with women and all that stuff, I just have a feel that that's just something that does not go away. I don't think, he lived his life in a certain way. And when it was brought to light, unfortunately, I think that's going to stay with him longer than the off season. What he did was wrong, clearly. And I don't think he's a very good person because of that. And that's going to affect his leadership. Now, they got a killer run game. You're right. Nick Chubb probably lead the league in yards if he stays healthy. He should get, 15, 18 touches a game, average 100 yards plus a game, maybe go over 2,000. And still, I don't see them necessarily winning games because of that, because that's just a slower pace of game. They do have a lot of hard games too, like you mentioned, against Denver. They got to play the Jets later in the year. Jets, who will be pushing for a playoff run, Super Bowl run with Rodgers. So, and the one thing that I want to point out too that we haven't talked about is really their wide receiver core is pretty thin. You got Amari Cooper, perfect for the Browns. That guy is, he's just inconsistent. He drops a lot of balls. He's dropped a lot in Dallas, and they added Cedric Tillman, who I love. Go Balls. Love to see him, do something. That would be awesome. But besides that, they got Marquise Goodwin. He's a burner, but not super proven in the NFL. And then Elijah Moore, of course, coming in as well. So I just think that if they get into these games against these tough divisional opponents, and it's low scoring games like they should be with the Browns if they're running the football, they're just going to swing a lot of ways the wrong way. And Deshaun Watson, I just have a feeling he's going to choke. I don't know. I just call it the Tiger Woods effect. So, I'm with Tony. Give me the under. They're a 6-7 win team again. And, the Browns fans are disappointed, and it's all status quo.
All right. Interesting. All right, man. So I also agree with y'all that Deshaun Watson is a bad person, for the record.
Yeah, sure, Dawson.
So
Yeah.
we're all on the same page.
You're taking the over. I mean,
Yeah.
I just want to know, what do you think this guy's been going through in the offseason? Just living with this, he's living in Cleveland now too. I mean, there's nothing going on. I mean, what is he doing? He's just festering.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't think he's got a heavy conscience for it. Let's just say that. I don't know. I don't know.
If that's your leader, you're in trouble.
I don't know these people, but I imagine if I don't think you're a good person, I don't think you feel too bad about it. But you should.
You should.
Mm-hmm.
All right, y'all. Pittsburgh. So, ooh. Oh man, I'm looking at our over-unders for the total. I want to predict our over-under for the last one, but I will wait. The Steelers. There was a stat last year that came out that Mike Tomlin, I believe. No, I'm just kind of remembering this, so maybe someone can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think Mike Tomlin has never gone under 500.
Never.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay. So he was 9-8 last year with a bad team with Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett.
Ooh, what a stacked lineup at quarterback.
And so it's hard. It's oh man, you don't want to go under. You never want to say he's going to go under 500 again, because he's a top 5 coach right now, top 2 or 3 coach maybe in the NFL right now.
Mm-hmm.
They finished 3rd. Their extra schedule is easier than the Browns' schedule, who finished 4th. I'd rather play the Raiders and the Broncos. I'd rather play the Patriots and the Jets, and the Bears and the Packers. I'd probably rather play the Packers too, honestly, than Justin Fields. It's all I think they have an easier schedule. So if y'all didn't catch that, they played the Raiders, the Packers, and the Patriots. And man, they did some upgrades. They added a lot of players. They kind of shored up their offensive line. They got Siumalo from the Eagles, who was a starter. They drafted Broderick Jones. I don't know if he's going to start or not. On their defense, they got Holcomb at linebacker. They got Patrick Peterson from the Ravens. I'm sorry, not from the Ravens. And then they got Ogunjobi to start on their defensive line. So they lost Cam Sutton, they lost Miles Jack, but I think overall they got better. It really depends on if Kenny Pickett steps up. Obviously, Kenny Pickett's going to start. He's going to be their main guy to go. Their strength, though, is their running back with Najee Harris. They've got some solid receivers. They've got a really good I don't want to say really good. They've got a good pass rush with TJ Watt, and they've got some guys in that D line. Opposite of TJ Watt, they don't have much. And they've got a good secondary. For their weaknesses is basically their quarterback. I don't know. It's hard to say. Do we trust Kenny Pickett? Do we not? It's really hard to say. So going with all of that, their over-under is 8.5 games. They are, picked to finish last in the division with 8.5 games. That is the lowest. Whew. If we compare all these teams to the AFC East, which we thought was the best division, 8.5 is better than the Patriots. So maybe the AFC North is better. I don't know. But I mean, Pittsburgh, that's just, they basically, there's not going to be a bad team in this division if you listen to Vegas. And it's hard to pick against Mike Tomlin. Part of me thinks he'll go 8-1. He's gonna go 9-8 again. Oh man, this is such a tough one. I'm definitely not gonna pick him to go under 500. All of a sudden, I'm not gonna be like all of a sudden he goes under 500 for the first time ever. But he's got a tough schedule in general, but then he gets the Raiders, the Packers, the Patriots. He gets the AFC South, which is a little bit easier. I think I see the Steelers winning 9 games. I think I see them going 9-8 again. I think I see them missing out on the playoffs again, just barely, but getting above that 500 mark, but still in 3rd place in the division. Maybe 4th place. Oh, all these picks combined. If you look at my picks combined, it's like, I don't know. How are all these teams going to win 9 games or 10 or 11 games? Someone's going to mess up. But that's why we call it the hedge. I'm hedging. Someone's going to get there too. So I'm going to take Pittsburgh. I'm going to take Pittsburgh over. I think they win 9 games. I think the Browns win 10 games. Oh man, it's gonna be a good division, and it's gonna be a lot of these divisional games are gonna go. I think a lot of these teams are gonna go 1-1 against these teams in their own division. I don't think there's gonna be a lot of sweeps. So I see Pittsburgh going 9-8, but I'm not super confident about it. Dylan, you agree? You think they go over or under? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, love the storyline here, man. We got Kenny Pickett out of Pittsburgh. Watched him play in college, and he's a great player. Coming into year 2, stepping into a program or team that they've got a great history. I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers are one of the best run organizations in the NFL. Their fan base is super positive. There's not a lot of like negatives to say that like from last year to this year, like what's really changed. George Pickens is a great wide receiver. Deontay Johnson. They did add Allen Robinson as well, who's another big time threat, another big guy. I think he's like 6'4", with great hands.
Yeah. That's a solid 1, 2, 3 for receivers right there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a solid receiver core. I mean, and you got Najee. The defense, their defense can be good. This division's a gauntlet. But outside the division, I really like their schedule. I really do. I mean, getting the Raiders, I mean, that's on the road, but getting the Packers, I don't know, Dawson, sorry, bro, not the Packers year this year, but but yeah, so there's a lot of things, and me thinking that the Ravens are going to have to maybe deal with some injuries down the road. They play the Ravens a little later on, including the last game of the year, which is we always know that game is huge on the schedule. And again, come back to Mike Tomlin, right? Are we going to go against the streak? Of that. And it's kind of like, this is my philosophy. I hate when these stats come up. It's like when you're watching baseball and they're like, guys throwing a no-hitter. Oh yeah, it's 10. And then as soon as like the baseball announcers know, but like in basketball, they're always talking about a guy had missed a shot or a free throw and then misses the free throw. Right. So I'd hate to see it. But I like the storyline here. I think that the Browns are not great. I think the Ravens aren't great. I think, the Bengals are going to run through everybody. And then I do think that the Steelers end up in the 2nd place spot. So give me the over on the division or over on the total there. 9-win team, 10-win team, maybe. I don't know. I just see them, taking care of a lot of business with playing the Patriots at home and the Cardinals at home. They get some good games there. The Colts, what's going on with them? I'm not very confident in them. So they play them kind of a nice little stretch there. Couple games against the Bengals that are going to be tough at the end. But anyway, so I'll take the over just to kind of stay congruent with my picks. So yeah, give me the over on that one.
All right. Tony, are we going to get 3 for 3?
Oh man, this is the toughest one of the division, I think. And I still really don't know. They have solid pieces everywhere, but I really think, like you said, the biggest weakness on their team is quarterback. Like Mike Tomlin, I'm sorry, you are one of the top coaches in this league. I think your streak's going to come to an end this year.
You
I
heard
know
it here
they-
first.
Yeah, their schedule. That's the thing that gets me. If they had just like one harder out of division game, I would be like, okay, yeah, under, that's fine.
Yeah.
But man, you said the Raiders. Who else?
Packers and the Patriots.
Dude, that could easily be 3 wins. Like that's at least 2 wins.
They should be favored.
It's like, damn. I still do think that 8.5 is just a little bit too high though. So I'm gonna stick with my gut, go with the under on that. Also, I just don't want to agree with you turds. So I think Kenny Small Hands Pickett. I don't think he's going to be the quarterback for the whole season. He's definitely not the answer in Pittsburgh. Like if this team had a good quarterback, even just a good one, a decent one, they don't need a star. Like even if Aaron Rodgers was plugged in, they'd be a decent. I'm just kidding.
This guy.
No, but
Dude, he
seriously,
came for blood today.
no, I'm just kidding. But seriously,
they
though,
had,
I
like-
think they're just.
Would you like
they're
it more
good.
if they had Heineke?
Honestly, yeah, I think I would.
I like Heineke. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he's solid. He's not gonna lead your team to a Super Bowl, but he'll win you some games.
They'll win
And,
9 games. Yeah.
Yeah, 9 games. Shit.
You
But
think would you rather them have Deshaun Watson?
no, I wish Deshaun Watson would never play another snap of football ever again.
Well, that's a part.
Yeah, sorry, we're not getting into that. But
Yeah.
Deshaun, if you're listening to this, fuck you. But yeah, sorry. Steelers, give me the under.
All right. Now, technically, they could go under and still get 500 with a little 8-8-1 action.
Yeah.
So, and he
I
could
like
keep-
that 8-1, man. That's
Me
just
too. I
I'm
kind of
feeling
wish
8-1.
if I could
Browns
pick
and
better
Steelers
than-
will tie this season. You heard it here first.
They're gonna tie at
Hey,
9. 3
Browns. You said
something
Brown.
like that.
The Browns and Steelers will
Browns and
tie in
Steelers.
one of their 2
All right.
matchups. It'll
All
be a
right.
tie.
Put it up. Put it down. Hedge
Put it down.
Put it down.
Hedge it.
Hedge it. Let's go. I like that. I mean, if someone, there's always someone that ties. So why not the Steelers? You know,
Exactly.
Yeah.
A team that can't like score when you need to.
a
Yeah.
team that's gonna like play it safe, run the ball. Kenny
Yep.
Pickett's gonna turn it over at like the 40-yard line with 4 minutes left in overtime. You know, like that. Yeah. Yep.
Classic.
I do that fake slide bullshit he did in
It's gonna be
college.
2nd and 2, and he's gonna turn it over.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Okay, guys. Well, we got one more thing left to do. We got to pick our division winners. Let me pull up those odds again. I think I texted them to you, but let me pull them up. All right. Oh, here we are. Okay. Everybody's in the plus. Woo. Oh man, that makes me like the Bengals. Everybody's at plus money. So the Bengals are at plus 150. The Ravens are at plus 235. The Browns are at plus 380, and the Steelers are at plus 450. I'll go ahead and go first. Taking the Bengals. I think this is it's not easy, but it's kind of easy. I think the Bengals are going to take this division. Obviously, I said the under on Baltimore, so it'd be crazy to pick Baltimore. But I think your value pick could be the Browns if all of a sudden they break out and Deshaun Watson becomes that top 10 quarterback. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're more of a playoff. If you want to bet on them to make the playoffs, that could be an interesting pick. I'm taking the Bengals plus 150, putting it in there. Dylan, who you got?
Bengals.
Bengals.
Easy.
Plus 150. Tony, who you got?
Man, I'm gonna keep it along with not agreeing with you turds.
Oh my
Give me-
God.
Give me the Ravens. I think they're gonna come away with the division this year. I said it multiple times now. I'm a big believer in Lamar. I'm a big believer in Harbaugh. I think Lamar, as long as he can stay healthy, is going to reaffirm that he is a top 5 quarterback in this league. He deserves every penny he got from that contract and then some. He should have gotten it a few years ago. The fact that he didn't is very disrespectful. So I think he's going to be an MVP candidate. They're going to have a good season. I wouldn't be surprised to see the AFC Championship running through Baltimore. Maybe get that #1 seed over Kansas City. I think it's going to be a good year in Baltimore. So give me the Ravens.
All right, Tony, I got a question for you.
So
if you were to put that $50 bet on FanDuel that gives you $5 back on every win, would you pick Baltimore over the Chiefs? Let me pull up the odds for you. You think about it. I'm going to pull up the odds.
So will you explain it to me one more time?
Okay. There is a bonus, super win bonus on FanDuel that says you bet $50 on a team to win the Super Bowl. You will get $5 in bonus bets back for every regular season win that they get up to $50. So if they win 10 games in the regular season, you get your money back, basically, in bonus bets.
Huh.
So, but also if they win the Super Bowl, you get the $50 times whatever, the Super Bowl odds are. So, filibuster action. The Chiefs are plus 600.
To win the Super Bowl?
Win the Super Bowl.
Are they the best odds to win?
They are the best odds to win.
Huh. That's why I love the NFL. It's anyone's game for the most part.
The Ravens
okay, sorry, continue.
You're good. So the Chiefs plus 600, the Ravens plus 1,800. So
give me the Ravens.
Woo!
I'd put not that I actually think that they would do it, but just for betting reasons, especially if they win 10 games, I get my $50 back.
Yep.
Like I want to go big with that plus 1,800. Do I think they're a better team than Kansas City? I don't think so. I think if they met up in the conference championship, I think Kansas City would probably win because they have the experience and everything. But man, I want the big payday. That's what I want.
You get $900 if the Ravens win.
Yeah.
And
as long as they win 10 games, which I'm very confident they'll win 10, like that's nothing. They'll win 10. To get my money back, that's fine. Right. Dang, I might actually do that. Ooh.
Hey, let's go.
Hey.
Dylan, I got a question for you.
Okay.
Ooh.
Same question. FanDuel. You put $50 down. If they win 10 games, you get all your money back with free bets. We're talking NFC. The two favorite teams in the NFC are the Eagles and the 49ers. Now, I know we haven't talked 49ers yet, and you can also take a wild card team if you don't want to pick either of these two teams. But which of those two teams would you put those $50 down to win the Super Bowl? The Eagles, will filibuster to let you think. Eagles are plus 800. Plus 800 will give you 80 times 5 should be 400, right? So $400 if you win. And then the 49ers are plus 1,000. So that'll give you $500 if you win.
Is Brock Purdy still a quarterback?
Brock Purdy is scheduled to be the starting quarterback.
Okay. Yeah. Staying away from that. San Francisco, great team. They're gonna win 10 games. Both these teams should win 10 games. On those two in the NFC, yeah, definitely the Eagles. Of those two, I think Eagles are trying to get back to the Super Bowl. I think we taught them already. So yeah. What did they lose? Miles Sanders, they'll be fine. Yeah. Miles Sanders is pedestrian. He's a good running back, but he's not pedestrian, but you know what I'm saying? He's not a huge crucial loss in my opinion.
Not worth running back.
Yeah. So Jalen Hurts is obviously great. So yeah, but I just want to go ahead and call it. The AFC is going to win the Super Bowl this year. I don't care who it is. If it's the Bengals, if it's the Chiefs,
the Ravens,
Tony's Ravens. If it's the Titans, we haven't thought that, but no, so Eagles on that one.
All right, guys. Let's wrap it up. Thank you all for joining me. This has been a lot of fun. We'll get back with the NFC North as always. Listen to what we said. See if you agree. Hedge those bets. Bet responsibly. Thank you guys for joining me. We'll see you next time.
See you, boys.
Love it.